This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. So we have done a 26-part series in the book of Genesis. That's the very first book of the Bible. So we are going to be continuing. And our next journey, we are going to continue with a 30-part series, lessons from the book of Exodus. It is going to be an exciting journey. If you have not already subscribed to our devotional, YouTube channel, make sure you click on the subscribe so that you don't miss any of the wonderful devotions that will help you stand strong for the Lord. Today, there is something important that I want to share with you from the book of Exodus. And again, just to remind you, these lessons are not going to be chronological. In other words, they're not going to be from Exodus 1, 2, and 3 like that, but they are going to be coming from the book of Exodus. All right. Now, one thing that is about us Christians, and that is what I want to share with you in our devotional thought for today, is that whenever that we plead or we call on God for something and we do not get it immediately, sometimes we begin to lose hope. Sometimes we begin to think that our prayers are not being heard by God. Whenever we have prayed for a certain breakthrough, we have prayed for help from God, we have asked God through, midnight prayers, we have prayed and we have fasted and we have not gotten what we are looking for. Sometimes we are tempted to believe that perhaps my prayers are not potent enough, but perhaps maybe I will need a man of God to intercede on my behalf. You see, what I want us to understand is that how God operates and his timing for his operation in our lives is totally different from ours. But there's one thing that we must be rest assured, and that is God hears the cries of his people. When God's people went into Egypt as slaves, when you read the book of Exodus chapter 2, and that's going to be our first lesson in this series in the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 2. Let us read from verses 23 to verse 24. But I want to read verse 23 first. The Bible says, during that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out. And their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. The people of Israel, they were going through difficult times in the hands of the Egyptians. Then the Bible says, they cried out. They groaned, they complained, they lifted their supplication to the only one whom they trusted would help them. Guess what? When you read verse 4 of Exodus chapter 2, the Bible says, God heard their groaning and remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. Isn't that amazing? When they cried out to God, God heard their cries. But you may be wondering, how long would it take for God to hear me? In the case of the Jews, they were in slavery for 400 years. They prayed for 400 years. They groaned. God's time for his deliverance for us is sure. He is always going to come true for us. When is he going to do that? We need to trust in him. The time for him to deliver us and the time of our pain, that period between the time of our pain and the time of his deliverance, that period is what is called faith. That is where you need to exercise strong faith in him, believing that he who has promised is true and that what he has said, that is what he is going to do for your life. So my dear friend, perhaps you may be in your groaning stage. Perhaps you may be in your Egyptian stage now. You are going through hard times in your life. I don't know which area it may be, but there's one thing that I can assure you of. If God heard the Israelites and remembered his covenant with the ancestors, God would hear your groaning. God will come true for you in his own time. He's going to turn your situation around because you have not given up on him. Keep trusting in him and keep following him faithfully with all your heart, knowing that we serve a God who hears the cries of his people. May the Lord strengthen you this time, and may he walk with you today and for the rest of your life. Shalom.